מה טובו עליך יעקב, משכנותיך, משכנותיך ישראל, ואני ברוחסתך אבוא וצאך, אשתחווה אל היכל קודשך ביראתך. מה טובו עליך יעקב, משכנותיך, משכנותיך ישראל, ואני תפילתי לך אדוני את רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך ענני באמת אישך. מה טובו עליך יעקב, משכנותיך, משכנותיך ישראל.
With the mass migration of Jews from Europe at the turn of the century, there was a need for new synagogues to accommodate growing Jewish families in places like Logan, Strawberry Mansion, South and West Philly. Beth Sholom congregation was organized in 1918. Its original name was to be Ahavas Israel. Our founders saw fit to commemorate the armistice that just ended World War I, and so they named their new synagogue Beth Sholom, or in English, House of Peace. The cornerstone for the original synagogue building at Broad and Cortland was laid in 1920. The synagogue was dedicated in 1922. Rabbi Mortimer J. Cohen was its first and only rabbi until the 1960s when Aaron Landis was appointed rabbi. Beth Sholom survived through the Depression, and his congregants witnessed the horrors of World War II and the triumph of the creation of the State of Israel.
זוהי זכותו הטבעית של העם היהודי, היא מדינת ישראל.
With the war over, demographics began to change. Jews moved out of the city and into the suburbs with their children in search of more space and a better life. The board of directors realized that the synagogue needed to move, and it purchased 4.5 acres of land on Old York Road in Elkins Park. The Beth Sholom Center, with a school, the Fishman Auditorium, and a small community center, including a swimming pool, was completed in 1951 and dedicated in 1952. There was still the hope that the new members who joined the Elkins Park Center would travel south and worship with the older members at Broad and Cortland Streets. This was not to be. Older members continued to move out of Logan, many to the northern suburbs. It became obvious to Rabbi Cohen and the lay leadership that a new synagogue needed to be built on their property in Elkins Park. Once the decision was made for a new synagogue, the question then became who would design it. In September 1953, Rabbi Cohen met with Dean Boris Bly of the Tyler School of Art. The dean suggested his acquaintance, Frank Lloyd Wright, the preeminent American architect of the time, and in retrospect of the 20th century. Rabbi Cohen contacted Mr. Wright and they met in New York. He conveyed his ideas of an American synagogue embodying the post-war American Jewish experience. Wright used his ideas to create a plan that symbolized this experience in glass, concrete, and steel. With minimal knowledge about Judaism and no experience in designing synagogues, Wright collaborated with Rabbi Cohen and his idea for an American synagogue. The result was a modern representation of Mount Sinai, with light radiating from within and from the building itself into the heavens. While the rabbi and Wright had a close relationship, there were many changes made over the plans over the course of the next few years. The biggest disagreements came over the location and size of the bima. Rabbi Cohen wanted it in the center of the room and drew plans for it where it should be. He eventually deferred to Wright's wishes. The synagogue board approved the plans, and now it needed to come up with a way to finance the construction. The board asked members to buy seats in the new synagogue, and the seats would be owned by the congregants forever. Money was raised. The cost of the synagogue went from the original estimate of $500,000 to $1,400,000, with the commitment of its leaders that the funds were to be raised. Groundbreaking was on November 14th, 1954, with Mr. Wright lifting the first shovelful of earth. This was a bit premature, as no contractor could be found who would deal with Mr. Wright's plans. Here is how the property looked just before the groundbreaking. Finally, in May 1956, an Oklahoma contractor, Haskell Colwell, with experience on other Wright projects, agreed to take on the task as general contractor. Mr. Wright and Rabbi Cohen have worked so closely on the plans together, jointly they supervised the work. A new seal for the American synagogue was created by Rabbi Cohen. The seal adorns the cornerstone and is replicated in the logo used by the synagogue to this day. The cornerstone was laid on December 7th, 1958. The synagogue was finally dedicated on September the 20th, 1959. By this time, ailing Mr. Wright had died. His widow spoke at the dedication in his place. Though Frank Lloyd Wright never lived to see the building alive with worshipers, his initials in this trademark, red Moravian tile square, can be seen on the outside wall near the main entrance. The synagogue received instantaneous international recognition, finding its way into magazines and newspapers, articles from New York to Tokyo. Time magazine twice published articles about the building during its construction. As early as 1963, Rabbi Cohen wrote to U.S. Senator Joseph Clark requesting a type of federal landmark status. At that time, such a federal designation did not exist. There, thankfully, is such a designation today, and Beth Sholom proudly joins a long list of architectural masterpieces as national landmarks. Join me as we relive some of the excitement shared by those privileged to be here during the time our synagogue was nearing completion. Now sit back and watch our synagogue take shape before your very eyes.